Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was banished and forgotten, but his harem gave him a new life. Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Naruto looked ahead at Zabuza and drew an arrow. Don't get overconfident. Underestimating an opponent is the biggest mistake you could make in battle. Zabuza looked at the kid in front of him before he went through a series of hand seals. Hidden mist jutsu. Zabuza yelled and a large amount of mist moved into the clearing. Shit. Naruto muttered under his breath and made 4 shadow clones. You guys stick with Tazuna. I'll take care of Zabuza. The clones nodded and formed a protective formation around Tazuna. Naruto extended his bow and prepared an arrow. 7 points. Lungs, heart, kidney. Naruto struggled to hear the rest as the voice kept bouncing around the clearing. A sudden slash appeared on his arm, but not deep enough to disable him. Naruto winced at the burning sensation in his arm, but ignored it for the moment. He had bigger fish to fry. Naruto closed his eyes and focused as much as he could on the environment around him. Remember, everything makes a sound. No matter how diminutive it is, it's there. He smirked at the memory from his tracking lessons with Hawkeye. Okay, he's got a huge blade and it's spilled blood. Naruto thought as he channeled a small amount of chakra to his nose and started sniffing the air. There's too much salt in the atmosphere to be able to pinpoint it using that method. Naruto grimaced as another slash appeared over his shoulder. Damn it. But wait, Naruto thought as he focused chakra in his ears. He heard the low sound of footsteps moving all around him. That's too many to be just him. Multiple opponents. No, different scents would have made a different aroma. Clones. Naruto mused, but was shaken by a low sound of a blade slicing through the air. That's it, the blade is too big to move undetected. It always makes a sound, but due to his reputation and the thrill of battle, an opponent never has the time to slow down and listen. Naruto surmised as he rolled out of the way of the incoming blade. You're good brat, but let me ask you something. Who shall I strike first? Who? Get down. Naruto yelled at the formation as he let loose an arrow. Over the clones and Tazuna was Zabuza with his blade mid-slash when Naruto's arrow went through his head. Naruto watched as the Zabuza standing over the clones turned into pure water. So I was right, he was using clones. Naruto thought as he made a few hand seals. Wind release. Spinning wind. Naruto yelled as he coated his hands with wind chakra and began spinning, forming a mini tornado that cleared away a lot of the mist. As Naruto stepped out of the tornado, he became slightly disoriented. Zabuza saw this as a chance to attack and charged head-on, intent on killing the blonde when an arrow buried itself into his chest. Before he could react, the arrow then critical and blew up inside of his chest. Instead of the regular splatter of blood and bones, only water flew. Shit, another clone. Naruto thought as he made 2 more shadow clones and had them run to the forest. A distraction, thought Zabuza as he watched the young blonde. He shrugged and charged at Naruto ready to end his life, only to duck under a clone holding a standard katana. Finally, my kind of battle. Zabuza said with an insane glee as he hefted his butcher's sword and ran at the clone. Naruto ducked under a slash from the giant blade and tried to slash upwards towards Zabuza's neck, only for the nin to jump back and begin a chain of hand seals. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique. Naruto watched as a giant dragon made of water rose out of the nearby lake and only had one thought. He barely had time to jump backwards as the dragon began charging towards him. Zabuza watched as the young brat tried to avoid his water dragon by jumping onto the lake and water walking on its surface. Big mistake. Zabuza thought as he shunned behind Naruto. Shit, this water feels weird, thick, like it's laced with chakra. Shit, Naruto thought as he made a few hand seals. After a poof, Naruto still stood there, but was wearing a huge grin on his face. What did he do? Zabuza wondered as he finished his chain of hand seals and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Water prison technique. Naruto watched as the overly thick water rose and began forming a circular prison around him, not even leaving any space for him to breathe. First mistake. You ran into your enemy's element. Zabuza stated with a satisfied smirk as he looked at Naruto in the bubble. Naruto smirked as he began focusing chakra into his stomach. A few seconds later, a large explosion shook the clearing, completely dispelling the water prison and knocking Zabuza roughly into a tree. First mistake. You underestimated your opponent. Naruto said as he jumped out from behind the forest line. But how? Zabuza asked as he used his sword to stand up. Simple exploding clone. Naruto replied as he unsealed his blade from his shoulder and resealed his bow. Naruto ran at the downed Zabuza with his blade poised to slash the throat, only for 3 Senbon to pierce Zabuza's throat. Naruto studied the Senbon and went to take Zabuza's pulse, only to find that he was dead. Naruto looked around to see what had just happened, but found the clearing to be empty. Before he could even voice a question, a ninja wearing a hunter nin mask came down and grabbed Zabuza's body. Thank you for your assistance. I have been searching for him for a very long time. The hunter nin said and shunned away, leaving Naruto and Tazuna alone in the clearing. What just happened? Tazuna asked Naruto as the blonde tried to hold his still bleeding arm. Hunter nin. They hunt down missing ninja from their respective villages in an effort to prevent village secrets from being made public. Is your house near here, old man? Naruto replied and asked at the same time. Yay, just up ahead. Think you'll be able to make it? Tazuna asked his blonde guard. Yay, I just need a good night's rest and an antibiotic cream or ointment. Naruto said as he followed Tazuna towards his house. Tazuna's house. Naruto groaned as he and Tazuna arrived at his house. The walk hadn't been bad, the problem was that his wound burned whenever exposed to the salty air of the land of waves. Tazuna knocked on the door and was greeted by his daughter, Tsunami. Father, I'm so glad you're safe. Tsunami said as she hugged Tazuna. Civilian, average woman. Mother, if her countenance is correct. Mixed as with what she has is made clear by her plain, but well cared for clothes, Naruto thought as he looked at the woman before him. Well, it's all thanks to my super awesome guard, Naruto. Tazuna happily exclaimed, putting Naruto in the spotlight. Thank you for taking care of my father, Naruto-kun. Tsunami said as she bowed slightly. Hey, it's no problem, right? I'm just doing what anyone else would have done. He said as he scratched the back of his head. You both must be starving, please come in while I make something to eat. Tsunami said in a happy tone. As Naruto walked into the home, he was greeted by the sight of an irritated kid wearing a bucket hat and simple overalls. The kid stormed off upstairs after seeing Naruto walk in. I am sorry about Inari-chan. He's a good boy, he just hasn't been the same ever since the incident. Tsunami started. Naruto took a seat at the dinner table as Tsunami brought him a cup of tea. What happened? Naruto asked as he took a sip of tea. Well, everything was fine in the land of waves until Gato came along. He bought out most of the ports for shipping and trading. After that, he began raising taxes and charging people outrageous prices, strengthening his grip on our country. By the time he became the tyrant he is, our country was completely dependent on his trading monopoly. He's been draining the land dry ever since. Tsunami finished. This bridge I'm building is the only hope this country has of being liberated from its dependence on Gato. Tazuna finished. So this bridge is the only way you can be liberated from Gato. Naruto reiterated and Tazuna nodded. What can you tell me about Gato? Naruto asked as he finished the last bit of tea he had in his cup. Not much is known of him. He spends most of his time holed up in his giant mansion. He's a bit paranoid, if his security force and lackeys are anything to go by. Tazuna started. He's extremely greedy. He sends out his thugs every week to collect a cost of living tax from every citizen. Anyone who can't afford to pay it has to answer to him in person. Naruto nodded as he began formulating a plan in his head. This mansion he lives in, are there any public records with the floor plans for the place? Naruto asked. Yay, I'm the one who built the place. Tazuna said. Okay, I can help, I believe. I will need the blueprints for his mansion and any easy entrance or underground tunnels you can find. Naruto said. Tazuna wondered what the kid was planning, but nodded anyway. I can get them in a few days. Tazuna said. Good. Now, is there a room I can sleep in for the evening? I'm sure that these next few days are going to be tough. Tsunami nodded and led him to a room upstairs. As soon as Naruto's head hit the pillow, he drifted off to sleep. With Zabuza. Zabuza groaned as he looked at his adoptive son treat his injuries. That blonde brat had been good, he had to give that much to him. Zabuza-sama, you really need to be more careful. You got too cocky and underestimated your opponent, and look where that got you. Zabuza grumbled about smart-ass kids, but nodded. How long till I'm up and running? With any luck and a lot of herbs, a few days, but you should take a full week to recover. Haku answered his master. Yay, sure, I'll make sure that I'm well rested and ready for my rematch with the brat. I'm sure he won't make it easy. Zabuza finished with a small grin. Haku smiled at his father's behavior, but it was cut off as Gato, their employer, arrived. The next day, Naruto groaned as he slowly got out of bed. If there was one enemy that could easily defeat him, it was those 5 minutes after he woke up. He headed to the bathroom, took a shower, and got dressed. As he adjusted his black beret and headed downstairs, he was greeted by the sight of Tazuna and Tsunami at the breakfast table finishing up their morning routine. You know, for a guard, you wake up extremely late. Tazuna said to Naruto as Naruto sat to his breakfast. For a drunk, you sure can hide a hangover well. Naruto said as he tapped his glass with his fork, making Tazuna wince at the noise. It felt like a needle was being forced through his skull. Touché. Now hurry up. We have to go to the bridge and make sure everything is going well. Naruto nodded as he finished up his breakfast. Time skip. The bridge. Naruto watched as the men worked on the bridge. While Tazuna might have been the world's most overqualified drunk, Naruto had to admit he did good work. The bridge was huge and very well constructed, especially considering the limited resource they had to work with. What do you mean you're quitting? Naruto turned to see Tazuna talking to some man who was quitting because the work had gotten too dangerous and he had to keep the safety of his family in mind. As Naruto approached Tazuna, the old carpenter began grumbling about his troubles. Damn it, not even a week and I've lost 4 men. Don't worry, something will turn up, Naruto said as he stood next to Tazuna. I doubt it, kid. I've drained most of my work offers here dry. Unless you want to help, I've got nothing. Naruto nodded as he adjusted his gloves and went to help the 2 men struggling to move a beam. Where are you going? Tazuna asked Naruto. To help instead of whine. Naruto replied. Tazuna was about to shoot back a smart-ass remark, but figured it was better left in his mouth. But this kid, who was he? Not only did he not expect pay for the work he did as a bodyguard, but he also helped out wherever he could. Then his words. To help instead of whine. Tazuna thought about these words. Sure, they were simple, but they seemed to hold such a great impact. Maybe it was time to stop sitting in the sidelines and to actually help. With that in mind, Tazuna headed off to see what was needed and how he could get it done. Naruto grinned as he looked at the blueprints for Gato's mansion. It had been 2 days since he arrived in Wave and he could without a doubt say that things were getting better. He had begun to help out at the bridge and, with the help of a few shadow clones, had been able to make up for the workers that had been intimidated into quitting. Since then, even the old drunk quit drinking so much and actually got his hands dirty at the bridge. Naruto smiled as he got back to work, looking over the mansion floor plans. Tazuna, isn't there a drainage system or something for this place? Naruto asked the drunk sitting across from him. Yay, there's a system of underground catacombs to help with the excess water. Since it's located in the middle of the forest, there had to be some way of relieving the excess rain and water so the mansion didn't end up being in the middle of a swamp. Tazuna finished. Is there an access tunnel or something? Naruto asked. Tazuna nodded and highlighted a hatch near the rear of the mansion. This place looks really big. Naruto mused as he looked at the blueprints. Which are the main support beams? Naruto asked Tazuna. They're spread throughout the entire mansion. Tazuna said as he laid a transparency over the blueprints that highlighted a few dozen support beams. Naruto nodded as he looked at the blueprints. I think I might have what I need. Naruto said as he rolled up the blueprints. Tazuna had a look of worry on his face, which Naruto thankfully noticed. What's wrong, Tazuna? Well, there are a lot of guards and patrols guarding the entrance. Not only that, but there's an intricate lock on the entrance. Tazuna finished. Naruto nodded. It'll be all right, don't worry. Naruto finished with a smile. Why? Naruto turned to see Inari there, bucket hat covering his eyes. Why what? Naruto asked. Why are you trying so hard to fight against Gato? No one can defeat him. He's got money, power, thews, and influence. Can't you tell that next to him, you're nothing? Inari yelled. Naruto smirked and looked at Inari. Why the hell are you laughing? You haven't had to deal with a hard day or to live in poverty. You probably already have everything back in your comfortable village. A family who loves you, a nice home, food. Inari yelled at Naruto. I'm laughing because you're amusing. Your grandfather is trying with all of his might to oppose Gato, but you throw in the towel before the first bell is rung. Naruto said as he approached Inari. You think I have it all in Konoha? I was disowned by my parents at an early age because my brother had more potential than I did. Naruto began. I had lost it all, and was ready to give up, but I didn't. You want to know why? Because I found people who cared for me. Naruto said as he remembered the faces of Cap, Tony, Natalia, Jarvis, and Hawkeye. Despite my disability, they trained me. They taught me ways to take down people 7 times stronger than me. By this time, Inari was sitting down crying. They made me what I am today. And in a last selfless act, they helped me improve myself by improving my body. Naruto said. They gave their lives for me, and their home. Also I could have a chance. So I'm sorry if I don't give up until I'm 6 feet under, but that's what I was taught. Naruto said as he ruffled Inari's hair. These tyrants, these dictators. They do nothing by the book. They just do whatever they want because they don't expect any consequences. In our minds, they are bigger because they have every advantage we don't. They have money, armies, and power. But if you look past it all, they're regular people. And I promise you that one way or another, Gato won't be troubling you anymore. Just don't lose the fire in your eyes. Once you lose that, you lose yourself. Naruto finished. Inari had a confused look on his face and stormed up to his room. Naruto-san, Tazuna started, getting his attention, is what you said to Inari true? Every word, Naruto said as he sat down at the table. But what disability do you have? Tazuna asked, not meaning to pry. When I was little, my brother was targeted by an unknown assailant. I took the hit for him, but it left my chakra coils severely damaged, up to the point where I couldn't use chakra. Naruto finished. But that's ridiculous. I saw you make clones and use a jutsu on the bridge the day that masked ninja attacked. Tazuna exclaimed. Naruto smiled as he took a sip of his drink. Yes, that is true. You see, I was hit with a toxin designed to apparently destroy the chakra network. Thankfully, as part of my heritage, I have a slight healing factor. It took approximately 7 years to fix my coils. By then, my father had disowned me because he had already decided my younger brother was stronger than me. Naruto finished. Tazuna wanted to ask more questions, but decided to keep his mouth shut. Tazuna-san, is there a workshop where I can work metal around here? Naruto asked. Why? What do you need to make, Naruto-san? Tazuna asked. Some party favors for our friends. Naruto replied with a smirk. Tazuna shrugged and led him to the smithy on the outer edge of the town. The smithy. Naruto smiled as he walked into the smithy. It had everything he would need to get ready for the next day's battle. He went to light the coal and get everything ready. Time skip 2 a.m. The next day, Naruto groaned as he stepped out of the smithy. It had been a grueling 8 hours, but he had finally managed to finish his little project, but he was completely exhausted and overheated. He laid on the soft grass as the cool breeze washed over him. Within minutes, he fell asleep. The next day, Haku was walking through the outskirts of the town looking for some herbs that would help speed his master's recovery up, but he had been having little luck. He was wearing a pink sleeveless kimono and a simple obi tied around his waist. As he continued searching, he came across the sleeping form of one Naruto Romanov. As soon as he saw him, he recognized him. That's the brat who managed to take down Zabuza-sama. Haku thought as he approached the sleeping Naruto. It would be so easy too, Haku began, but trailed off and instead of reaching for Naruto's neck, reached for his shoulder. Naruto groaned as he slowly opened his eyes. What happened? Did I fall asleep out here? Naruto asked himself as he slowly came to, and noticed a stunningly beautiful girl with raven hair and chocolate brown eyes standing over him. You should wake up, you're going to catch a cold out here. Naruto heard the girl say to him. He sat up and rubbed the back of his head. Nay, thank you miss, but I'll be fine. It will take more than a cold to take me down. My name is Naruto Romanov. Naruto said as he extended his hand towards the young girl. I'm Haku. Why were you sleeping out here, Naruto-san? Haku asked as he continued to search for his herbs. Oh, I was just finishing a few preparations. Naruto said as he looked over Haku's shoulder. Nay, what are you doing, Haku-san? I'm picking a few herbs to help a friend of mine's get better. What about you, Naruto-san? Why are you out here making preparations? Haku asked Naruto. I'm getting ready for an assignment. Naruto replied. Assignment? Are you a shinobi? Haku asked. No, I'm not a shinobi. I'm just helping out a few of the people in the town. Naruto replied. Wow, you must be really strong then. Haku commented. I guess I am. Naruto replied sheepishly. What do you fight for? Haku asked. What do you mean? Naruto asked Haku, confused at her question. What do you fight for? Everybody fights for something. Haku replied. Well, I fight for the people who have been wronged and have no way of helping themselves. Naruto replied. That's good. I believe you are the strongest when you fight for the sake of someone else, not your own. Haku said as he finished picking herbs. Well, Naruto-san, I am afraid I must get back to my sick friend. Thank you for listening to me. Haku said as he left. No problem, Haku-san. It was great to meet you. Haku smirked as he turned to look at him. By the way, I'm a guy. Haku finished as he left the clearing, leaving Naruto's face drained of blood. Gah, no freaking way, Naruto thought as he watched the male leave. He got up, loosened his joints, and headed back into the smithy. He still had to collect his items and head back to meet up Tazuna for guard detail. The bridge. Tazuna looked a bit paranoid as Naruto walked over to him. Naruto tapped his shoulder, only for Tazuna to jump like a frightened cat. Nay, Tazuna-san, are you okay? Naruto asked him. Yay, just peachy. Where were you? Tazuna replied and asked. At the smithy finishing up. I kind of fell asleep last night outside of the smithy. Naruto replied as he made 5 shadow clones to go help with the bridge. Well, did you finish what you needed to get done? Tazuna asked as he hefted a bag of concrete. Yay, I got everything done. Tonight is going to be a very dangerous night for everyone, though. Naruto replied as he grabbed a bag of cement and followed after Tazuna. I'll tell you and the whole family later tonight, Naruto said. Chizuna hesitantly nodded but knew he didn't have much of a choice. Time skip. The same night. Chizuna stared at Naruto as he put on his Kevlar vest. You do realize what you are planning is crazy, right? Chizuna said. Naruto nodded as he adjusted his fingerless gloves and his face mask. Yay, I know, but this is a quick and efficient way to solve the problem. Chizuna hesitantly nodded, aging with Naruto's point. Anyway, I'll be leaving 5 shadow clones with you and the family in case shit hits the fan. Hole yourselves up and no matter who knocks, do not answer. My clones will give you the all clear when everything is okay. Chizuna nodded. Forest near Gado's house. Naruto slowly made his way over the trees around Gado's house. Overall, the midget had been extremely careful. He had already ducked to avoid 5 patrols and had avoided 3 different tripwires, but the hatch was still swarming with bandits. It was literally right in the middle of a bandit camp. Shit, if I leave them alive, they'll terrorize the village after Gado is gone. If I kill them now, I run a greater risk of being discovered. Naruto mused as he took a kunai out of his pouch. The things I do. Naruto sighed out as he slowly made his way into the camp. Bandit camp. Naruto smirked as he saw the bottles of sake littering the entire campsite. Apparently, they had a big party and got stone cold drunk. Most of them were passed out of the floor. He carefully went up to each one of them and slit their throats, being as silent as possible. At first, he winced at the loss, but after the 5th throat, ignored the feeling in favor of finishing the task at hand. He slowly walked up to the last of the 12 bandits, but his foot kicked an upright sake bottle. As the bottle smashed into the floor, the bandit began to stir. As he slowly opened his eyes, he was greeted by the stinging sensation of a kunai being rammed into his throat. Without making a sound, Naruto wrapped the monk's head in his arms and laid him down. As Naruto wiped his kunai clean, he inspected the carnage. This feeling never went away. The knowing you extinguished a life, even if it was a life full of sin. He sighed and unsealed his lock-pick set from his infiltration tools. After fiddling with the lock for 15 minutes, a small click was heard. Naruto removed the lock and quietly entered into the service entrance to the catacombs. He was in, and if he had anything to say about it, Gado had a few hours left to live at best. Naruto stuck to the shadows as he entered a large room, where the first main support beam was supposed to be. He quietly made sure that no one was in the room and made an all-too-familiar hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu. He whispered as 3 clones popped into existence. Everybody knows the plan, right? Naruto asked his clones as he unsealed the project he had been working on in the smithy. He took out a small storage scroll from his vest pocket and channeled a bit of chakra into it before he threw it on the floor. With a large poof, 3 quivers full of arrows appeared. Naruto motioned for each of the clones to pick one up and made sure there were enough arrows. Once the equipment was distributed, Naruto spoke. Alright, security here in the catacombs is lax at best. Either way, we can't afford to get caught. You too, he pointed at the 2 clones in front of him, your job is to tag every major support beam down here. He finished as he pointed at the specific beams on the blueprints. Split up if you have to, but make sure you aren't caught. Naruto picked up the map and studied the entrances. You're with me, he said to the last clone as he unsealed his own bow and arrows. The clone nodded. We meet back up here in 20 minutes. Naruto finished the plan. What if you don't make it back? One of the clones asked. Then you know what to do. Naruto quickly replied. We'll leave. The clone stated. No, you idiot. You wait another 10 minutes. Naruto replied at the clone as he and his clone headed towards the entrance to the main household. Main household. Naruto whistled silently at the inside of Gado's home. He had to admit, for an oppressive tyrannical dictator, the man had class. He shook his thoughts as he ducked into a dark shadow to avoid a group of guards. His shadow clone had already left to tag the important support beams, leaving him to his own devices. Damn it. Where the hell is Izuno? One of the men on the patrol teams asked the rest of the team. I don't know. Probably got lost. Another man of the team replied. Yay. Well, let the little shithead get lost. I'm not putting my ass on the line for anyone else but myself. The patrolling thug said as he left, the rest of the team following him. Izuno. Huh. Probably a new recruit seeing as how these guys already know the layout. Since they didn't bother to wait for him, that just proves that he isn't considered one of them yet. Naruto thought as he heard footsteps approaching. He quietly looked around the corner to see a middle-aged man wearing brown pants and a khaki t-shirt holding a lantern as he searched the halls. Damn Shinato, leaving me behind. The man grumbled under his breath as he continued to search with his head cocked to his side. Head cocked to the side, partial deafness in ear. Patrol man, so probably spends a lot of time on his feet. Scent of sake all over his person, so heavy drinker. Naruto thought as he finished his plan. As soon as the man was close enough, Naruto acted. He stepped out from the shadows and punched the man in the ear, and before the man could scream sent a jab to his vocal cords to disable them. With a quick jab to the kidney and a strong kick to the knees, the man fell to his feet. Naruto quickly caught the man and dragged him back to the shadows. While the man was still conscious, he was confused, dazed, and in pain. You have seen what I can do, and I can do a lot worse. Naruto started as he held his hand over the thug's mouth. I will now ask you a series of questions. If you answer them honestly, then I will let you live. Nod once for yes and twice for no. Do you understand? Naruto asked his captive. Good. Are there more than 5 guards on patrol tonight? 2 nods. How many? 4. 1 nod. Is Gado's office here downstairs? 2 nods. Is it upstairs? 1 nod. Any guards inside or around? 2 nods. You've been very helpful, Naruto commented. That's why I'll make this quick. Naruto finished as he snapped the man's neck and lowered him to the ground. Due to his form and injuries, man would have been injured for life. Killed for betrayal, and in pain for a few hours until someone found him. That's why I was merciful, Naruto thought as he left the dark corner. He slowly made his way past the first guard patrol through the living room by sneaking through the vast kitchen. As he exited the kitchen, he headed to the stairs. Carefully climbing the flight of stairs, he made it to the 2nd floor, only to see various doors in the hallways. In retrospect, maybe I should have asked which door. Naruto's sweat dropped. He heard low footsteps heading his way and ducked into the first door he could find. Damn it, that Zabuza got taken down by an unknown brat. A loud annoying voice resounded through the door. That must be Gado, Zabuza's employer. Naruto thought as he gripped his bow. He quelled his anger as the voice got further away. And don't let anyone into my office. Gado yelled to the 2 guards in front of his office door. Naruto smirked as he saw the 2 guards grumbling and take their post. He took out a couple of arrows and aimed at their heads. He let the arrows loose and watched as they pierced the heads of the guards. He picked the bodies up and threw them into the nearest closet, then made his way into the office. Gado's office. Gado grew pissed as he heard the door to his office open and close. Damn it, I told you I am not to be disturbed. Gado yelled. Oh, I don't think you meant me. An odd voice replied to him. Gado turned to see a man wearing a black t-shirt and a pair of black cargo pants with an odd vest and black beret and a face mask. Who the hell are you supposed to be? Me. No one really. Just the one who was going to stop your tyranny. Naruto said as he withdrew a kunai with ninja wire attached to it. Gado's eyes widened and he tried to reach over to the intercom to call in his security detail, only to feel a burning pain in his wrist. He looked to see the kunai piercing his wrist and burying itself into his desk. The next second, the ninja wire was wrapped around him, tying him down on the chair he was sitting on. What do you want? Gado demanded at the blonde Avenger. Simple really. I want to eliminate scumbags like you. Naruto replied. Like me? Gado asked dumbly. Yes, like you. People who think they can throw around a bit of money and do whatever they want. Dictators. Power-drunk idiots, if you will. But I realized something a while ago. You aren't working alone. While you may be the head of Gado Shipping, there is still a board of directors who would have no problem continuing in your footsteps. Gado smirked as he heard Naruto's monologue. Yay, so even if I die things won't change. Gado replied. Oh, but they will. All I have to do is make sure to move the power and not just disable the figurehead. What do you mean? Gado asked. Simple really. Naruto replied as he started looking under portraits on the wall. You're a man who started small and ultimately made your way, according to these pictures. Naruto said as he pointed to a picture of a younger Gado wearing grimy clothes and working in a mine. You know the value of money, so it's very important to you. Obviously, you would rather keep it at the bank so as to keep it safe. But unfortunately, you are still human. Paranoid little creatures we are. No. Naruto asked as he opened the safe. He tapped the safe with his bow. I'm guessing this is where you keep deeds, ownership papers, and a lot more. Naruto asked. Gado simply stared, but then responded. So what? You'll never open it. Naruto smirked as he pulled out a small bottle of alcohol and approached Gado. Dear me, that's a horrible scratch. We wouldn't want that to get infected, would we? Naruto asked as he poured alcohol into Gado's pierced wrist, making him yell in pain. Naruto then unholstered his gun and pointed it at Gado's leg. Let's see how much pain you can stand. Naruto said before firing off a single gun into his leg. Gado yelled out in excruciating pain, but Naruto paid not attention to him. You shouldn't have spread out your security so much. They will take a while to get here. Naruto said as he used a kunai to dig the bullet out of Gado's leg, purposefully digging deeply into the leg to really make him feel it. Now, let's disinfect that. Naruto started, only for Gado to yell, no. Please, No, I'll do anything. Gato pleaded. What's the combination to the safe? Naruto demanded. 162434. Gato instantly replied. Naruto went to open the safe and got out all of the documents. Good, now you're going to sign here. Naruto said as he pulled him onto a chair and pointed to the transfer of ownership page of the documents. Gato quickly signed it and handed the documents to Naruto. Good, everything seems to be in order. Bye, Naruto said as he began to leave the room. Wait, you can't just leave me like this. I need medical attention. Gato yelled, making Naruto laugh loudly. After what you have done to this country, do you honestly expect any of them to help you? Gato was about to reply, but bit his tongue. Exactly. Now, I can alleviate the pain. Naruto started. Please, anything. Gato begged. Naruto pointed his weapon to Gato's head and fired a single round, piercing Gato's head and ending his life. Before Naruto could say anything witty, he heard shouts getting closer to the office. That's my cue to go. Naruto muttered to himself as he quickly made his way back to the entrance to the catacombs. Catacombs. Naruto swiftly made his way through the catacombs, not even caring about the few scattered guards yelling at him. Before he could get far, a large arm clotheslined him into the ground. I figured you would show up here eventually, brat. A familiar malicious voice stated. Naruto quickly got to his feet and looked up to see Zabuza staring at him. Zabuza. Gato's dead. You have no more reason to fight. Naruto stated. Wrong. You just killed my meal ticket. Zabuza said as he tried to unsheath his executioner's blade. What? Zabuza asked as he turned to his blade. The catacomb hall was too narrow for him to be able to successfully withdraw his sword. Before Zabuza could react, a steel-toed boot slammed against his jaw. Zabuza shook his head as he recovered from the impact. Before Naruto could get into a fighting stance, a cold sensation wrapped around his neck. He turned his head slightly to see the hunter ninchacking him with a large, well-woven rope. Naruto's hands quickly reached to the rope and he dug his fingers into the closing space between it and his throat. At least I'll be able to somewhat breath. Naruto thought as he pulled at the rope. Haku had a hell of a grip. Naruto had to at least give him that much. Naruto watched as Zabuza rose to his feet and glared at him. Damn, you pack a mean punch, brat. Zabuza said. He then punched Naruto in the gut hard, making Naruto groan in pain. Zabuza nodded at Haku and Haku began tightening the rope around Naruto's neck. Who sent you? Zabuza demanded at Naruto. Naruto chalked out. Why? Your fashion consultant. Naruto spat out, making Zabuza punch him in the face. Naruto's brow split open as he stared at Zabuza defiantly. Zabuza then followed with a hook to Naruto's stomach, making him fall. He nodded to Haku again, Haku's grip tightening the rope. Shit. Damn it. Everything is getting blurry. Naruto thought as he tried to breathe, his face red from the lack of oxygen. How many men are on your team? Zabuza demanded, making Haku look at him questioningly. Zabuza-sama, he's the only one who we found. Haku said. Look at him, Haku. He's obviously a professional. Look at the way he's dressed. Black and incognito. Beret obviously points to an organization. He has all of the equipment a professional would need. No professional in their right mind would go into a mission this dangerous alone. Zabuza rationalized. Haku nodded at Zabuza's explanation as Naruto tried to wheeze out a response. Zabuza nodded at Haku and Haku loosened the grip on Naruto's neck, making him stumble and gasp for breath. I'll ask once again, how many men are on your team? Zabuza demanded. Just your mother. Naruto replied, making Zabuza kick him in the stomach. Well, this one is useless. Kill him. Zabuza told Haku. Haku nodded and made a spike out of ice. I don't like killing Naruto-san. Haku started as he approached the downed boy. But to be an effective weapon for Zabuza-sama, I will kill my feelings and become a true shinobi. Before Haku could stab Naruto, a loud noise resounded through the catacombs. Haku yelled as a sharp pain flared in his shoulder. Haku gripped his shoulder, but before he could react, Naruto sent an upper kick to Haku's head, making the androgynous shinobi fall to the floor. What the hell? Zabuza demanded, but was forced to take cover as a flurry of kunai came at him. What's going on? Naruto thought as he raised his head to see his three clones mounting an all-out long-range attack. Naruto took the opportunity to get up and run into the nearest catacomb tunnel. As he ran, he failed to pay attention to his surroundings and was once again clotheslined by Zabuza. Naruto hopped to his feet and got into a fighting stance as the swordsman took his own. Let's see. Based from our fight, his main strengths are Kenjutsu and water ninjutsu. The hall is long enough for him to unsheath his sword, but not long enough for him to be able to use it effectively. Anywhere jutsus are out of the question since there is no available water source and it would probably flood the tunnels. Naruto was shaken from his thoughts as he ducked under a punch from Zabuza and countered with a kick to Zabuza's ribs, making him grunt in pain. Before Zabuza could react, Naruto sent a kick to his face, making his brow split. Come on, is the big bad demon scared? Naruto taunted, making Zabuza growl in rage. Zabuza got up and threw a series of jabs and punches at Naruto, only for them to be sidestepped or swatted away. Zabuza tried to kick Naruto in the face, only for his foot to be caught by the blonde. As Naruto caught the foot, he immediately sent a kick to Zabuza's knee, making the swordsman yell in pain. Naruto tried to send another kick, only for the swordsman to spin in midair and kick him away. Naruto slowly got up, only to be slammed back onto the ground as Zabuza grabbed him by his neck and slammed him against the floor. You aren't going to make a fool out of me, brat. Zabuza yelled as he stomped on the back of Naruto's neck. Before Naruto could react, a figure tackled Zabuza off him. Go, get out of here, boss. Naruto heard his clone yell. He wiped the blood from his nose and ran full speed towards the exit, making sure to avoid any guard that may have been able to take him down on the way. As he got to the rear entrance, he saw his other two clones standing there. What the hell happened to you, boss? They asked him. I got my ass kicked. Naruto replied, then turned to them. Did you guys tag all of the main support beams in the house and catacombs? Naruto asked and all of the clones nodded in response. Naruto took this as a go-ahead and formed his hands into the detonation hand seals. Boom. Naruto muttered. In the catacombs, various support beams had been tagged with arrows. As soon as Naruto activated his hand seal, the seal engraved into each of the arrowheads began to sizzle. Before anyone could react, an explosion shook the catacombs and the main support beams, making the land around the main mansion into one big sinkhole. But it didn't end there. As soon as the main beams of the catacombs fell, the arrows tagging the main support beams of the main household were triggered. Naruto watched as the once proud mansion crumbled to pieces. Damn, that was definitely one of my tougher operations. Naruto mused as he let out a sigh of relief. He turned and was about to leave when a loud voice resounded through the clearing. I'm not through with you yet, brat. Naruto groaned and turned to see Zabuza charging at him, blade drawn and in hand. Naruto took out a kunai and charged at Zabuza. Zabuza threw a large slash at Naruto's face, only for Naruto to duck under it and to stab his kunai into Zabuza's already injured knee. Before Zabuza had time to register the sudden surge of pain, Naruto followed up with an uppercut to Zabuza's jaw and then slammed his elbow into Zabuza's face, breaking his nose. Naruto withdrew his katana and charged at Zabuza, blade positioned to stab Zabuza's heart. Seconds before Naruto stabbed Zabuza's heart, a giant ice mirror appeared in front of him. Naruto could only stare as his blade pierced Haku's heart and ended the young shinobi's life. Naruto grabbed Haku's still body and jumped away as Zabuza slashed at him with his sword. What the hell is your problem? Your comrade just died and the first thing you try to do is slash his body in half and dishonor his sacrifice. Naruto growled at Zabuza. Haku was nothing but a weapon for me to use as I see fit. Zabuza coldly stated as he steadied his body weight on his good foot and began charging at Naruto. Before Zabuza could get close, he was pierced in the shoulder by an arrow, making him drop his giant sword. Then another arrow pierced his leg, making him fall to the floor. You're wrong, Naruto stated as he approached the downed Zabuza, bow in hand. Haku was a person, just like you and me. He had feelings, dreams, aspirations, and goals. And you know what they were. They were all to help you achieve your dreams. Naruto said coldly, making Zabuza wince at the harsh words. I thought people like Gato were scum, doing and taking what they wanted when they wanted. Naruto began. But it's people like you that are the real scum. Sacrificing others for your own gain and not even batting an eyelash when they die in front of you. Naruto turned and walked away. Wait, where are you going, brat? Come back, our battle isn't over. Zabuza yelled at him. It's over. Naruto muttered as the arrows in Zabuza's shoulder and leg began fizzing. With that, Zabuza's life was ended in a large-scale explosion. Naruto winced as he made his way back to Tazuna's house, the ringing sound in his head and his damaged face making it hard for him to walk straight. The next day, Naruto's room. Naruto was having a pretty good morning. He woke up in a soft bed, the floor was warm, and his split brow and bruised face were already healed thanks to his healing factor. He made his way downstairs, only to see Tazuna, Tsunami, and Inari all gathered around the kitchen table. Well, what happened? Tazuna asked Naruto. You got a pen? Naruto asked Tazuna. Damn it, quit trying to change the subject on me, brat. Tazuna demanded, only to shut his mouth as Naruto dropped the deeds to Gato's business and a transfer of ownership before the drunken bridge builder. Gato is dead, and his base of operations has been destroyed. Naruto stated, making Inari stare at him with wide eyes. Why, you're lying. Inari stuttered out. I told you, no man is invincible, especially not one who hides behind money. Naruto said to him with a grin, making Inari break out into tears. Tsunami wrapped her son into a comforting hug and held him close as her father signed the transfer of ownership over to himself. But why are you doing this, brat? You could have just overthrown Gato and take his place. Tazuna asked suspiciously. I hold no interest in ruling over people. It is not my place. I would rather ensure that they have the ability to choose their own place in life. Naruto replied as he finished his tea and got up. Well, we got work, don't we? Naruto asked Tazuna. The hell with that. As soon as the villagers hear of what happened to Gato, there's going to be a festival to celebrate the fall of the tyrant. Tazuna replied happily with a bottle of sake in hand. Today we celebrate, tomorrow we go back to work with hangovers. He exclaimed happily, making Naruto's sweat drop. Time skipped 3 days. Naruto smiled as he looked at the finished bridge. After towns, people had heard of Gato's fate. A giant festival had been held to celebrate it. There was food, drink, games, and music all around. Everything had been fine until Tazuna announced that Naruto had been the one to take down Gato. After word spread, everyone wanted to meet the hero, which led to him having to sit through various handshakes and greetings with the townspeople. The celebration had dragged into the early morning before everyone had finally fallen asleep. The next day and the day after that had been nothing but hard work, but there was a sense of accomplishment to it. With Gato gone, a lot of people volunteered for the bridge and they had managed to get it done in 2 days. Which brings us to where we are today. Naruto stood in full uniform minus his face mask besides Tazuna as the old drunk gave his speech about Wave prospering thanks to the bridge and the newly acquired Wave Shipping Inc. However, the next part of Tazuna's speech caught his attention. And now, in the honor of the hero who helped overthrow Gato, we the people of Wave have nominated that this recently finished bridge be named the Great Naruto Bridge. Tazuna exclaimed, making the entire crowd cheer and Naruto feel self-conscious at the feeling of having the spotlight suddenly put on him. As the crowd cheered loudly got their hero and their newfound freedom, Naruto couldn't help but smile. I'm going to have to leave soon if I want to make it to the bunker in Kumo soon. Naruto thought as he looked at the celebrating town people. Time skip. 3 days later, border between Land of Fire and Land of Hot Water. Naruto groaned as he looked towards the Land of Hot Water. It had been 3 days since he helped the Land of Waves finish the Great Naruto Bridge, and that very same night he left the Land of Waves. Since then, there was only one word that could describe the way he was feeling. I'm so bored. Naruto mentally yelled as he kept to the walked path. I need some excitement soon. Naruto muttered under his breath. I wonder how things are going back in Wave. Naruto asked as he crossed the border into the Land of Hot Water. Back in the Land of Waves. It was the early morning that we see 4 individuals walking towards the docks of the Land of Fire. No, Sasuke-kun is the best. A loud shrill voice yelled. Kakashi, a man standing at 181 centimeters with gray gravity-defying hair and his face covered by a face mask and his Konoha headband covering his left eye. Nay, Sakura-san, please stop yelling. A girl with green eyes and pink bubblegum hair turned to look directly at Kakashi. But Kakashi-sensei, Hiruzen Baka tried to say that he was better than Sasuke-kun. Well, I was named the Rookie of the Year. A voice behind the both of them stated. Sakura and Kakashi turned to see Sasuke Uchiha, the last left living Uchiha. He had onyx eyes and dark hair. He always had a holier-than-thou air around him. Still kicked your ass in the spars. A voice said behind them all. Sasuke sent a death glare to Hiruzen Namikaze, the heir of the Namikaze clan and son of the Yondaime Hokage. The boy had red hair and chocolate brown eyes. Nay, Hiruzen-kun, would you please not argue with your teammates? Kakashi asked nicely. Hiruzen nodded, making Sasuke scowl and Sakura growl. Why did Minato-sensei have to give my team this assignment? I could have handled it easily by myself, but no. I had to bring the rat pack with me. Kakashi mentally whined as he recalled the meeting between himself and his longtime sensei. Flashback. Mission assignment. Kakashi, I want you to go to the Land of Waves and help the people build a bridge to liberate the country from their dependence on Gato shipping. You will go with your team, and as they take turns guarding the bridge builder Tazuna, you are to take care of Gato. Minato finished. Kakashi-sensei, wouldn't it be easier just for me to go to Wave and do this mission solo? Kakashi asked. Well, yes, but we need the bridge builder to be safe and that is a 4-man team job. Minato replied. Why would we need him, sensei? Kakashi asked. He came to me seeking help a bit of a week ago. He offered the payment for AC rank mission and a trading contract. I declined him in an effort to get him to offer more, but he left the very next day. You are to go to Wave and help him under these conditions. Minato stated as he handed a list of demands to Kakashi. Kakashi read the note out loud. These are the demands to Konoha helping the Land of Wave. an equivalent payment of 2 A-rank missions, a trading agreement exclusively with Konoha, and a 50% discount on any future services required from Wave. Kakashi finished. Do you understand your mission? Minato asked Kakashi. Yes, Hokage-sama. Kakashi finished. So basically I'm to extort a country by overthrowing its tyrant, only to replace its rule by one of a hidden village. Kakashi sighed. Present time. Kakashi shook his head as he looked to the dockworker ahead of him. Excuse me, is there any way we could charter a boat to the land of waves? Kakashi asked the man as politely as possible. A boat? Why not just take the bridge? The worker asked Kakashi, making him look at the man with an inquisitive look. I thought the bridge wasn't finished. Kakashi asked. It was finished about 3 days ago. They named it after the hero of Wave. The worker replied, making Kakashi look at him. Well, could you direct us to the bridge? Kakashi asked. The man nodded and began giving Kakashi instructions on how to get to the bridge. Time skip. The beginning of the Great Naruto Bridge. Kakashi and his team looked in awe at the giant bridge in front of them. Kakashi-sensei, what is this? Sasuke asked as he stared at the giant bridge. The Great Naruto Bridge, named after the man who helped liberate this land and brought hope back to its people. Sakura read off a plaque, not noticing the flash of recognition on Kakashi and Hiruzen's faces. Did you just say Naruto? Kakashi asked Sakura and got a nod in response. It couldn't be Naruto-kun, could it? No, that's impossible. The poor boy couldn't even use chakra and he wasn't trained in the ninja arts. Besides, the last time I saw Hai was about, when was the last time I saw Naruto-kun? Kakashi wondered as he put away his Ika book. I can't remember. Kakashi admitted to himself with a tone of shame. Hiruzen, however, was thinking different thoughts. That couldn't be Big Bro, could it? No, Big Bro couldn't use chakra. But then where is Big Bro? No one has seen him since my 5th birthday. Hiruzen looked to the ground as he remembered his older brother. Hiruzen remembered what happened that night. He was made clan heir. However, he didn't learn of the consequences of his father and mother's actions until much later. According to the old customs in Konoha, only one child from a clan could be the clan heir, usually the firstborn. In order for another child to become the clan heir, the first had to die in battle or in a challenge. The only other way to name a clan heir without bloodshed was to disown the current clan heir and name the new clan heir immediately. Since he showed more potential than Naruto, Hiruzen was named the clan heir. It wasn't until a year later that Hiruzen learned that interesting fact. Then, he learned the reason his brother showed no promise in the ninja arts was because he was injured in an attack from an unknown assailant. From the file he read on the attack, it was believed that the attack was meant to disable him, the Nine Tails container, not his brother. From that day, Hiruzen only had one mission in mind. Find his brother. Unfortunately, that was easier said than done. His brother had completely fallen off the face of the earth. Now, here was a slight chance that this Naruto was his brother. I will find you, Oni-san. Hiruzen thought. Back in the land of hot water. Naruto sneezed as he began setting his campsite for the evening. Someone must be talking about me. Naruto mused as he sat near the campfire and unsealed some meat to cook. Back in the land of waves, Chizuna's town. Kakashi was wide-eyed as he looked at the thriving community before him. According to the report he got from the Hokage, this town was supposed to be in poverty due to Gado's high-cost shipping and his cost of living taxes. This town was the exact opposite. People were happy, kids were running, there were exotic foods and spices in the market and people seemed genuinely prosperous. Kakashi was once again shaken from his thoughts as a gray-haired man wearing glasses with a large beard and dark eyes approached him. Hello, I'm Chizuna, the mayor of Wave. How may I help you? He asked Kakashi. Hello, my name is Kakashi and this is my team. We were sent from Konoha to aid you in getting rid of your little problem. Kakashi finished quietly. Chizuna's face went into a scowl as he remembered the selfishness of the Hokage when he visited the hidden village. Hokage-sama has authorized me to take care of your problem in exchange for these conditions. Kakashi said as he handed the list to the man. Chizuna smiled as he took the list. Let's see what that bastard was trying to extort from me. Chizuna thought as he took the list and read over it. His scowl deepened as he read the conditions. No, thank you. Chizuna said to Kakashi. What do you mean no? Do you want to live under the rule of a tyrant for the rest of your life? Kakashi asked. Chizuna laughed as he signaled the team from Konoha to follow him. Come with me, Chizuna said. After roughly 15 minutes of walking, they arrived at what seemed to be the site of a large explosion. What are we doing here, Chizuna-san? Kakashi asked. This is the grave of Gado, the shipping tycoon of Wave and what remains of his giant mansion and his thugs. Chizuna finished. What happened? Kakashi asked as he surveyed the damaged. Professional-grade explosives, whoever did this was well-trained. Kakashi thought as he heard the man speak. Naruto happened. That boy was a godsend. He managed to not only protect me through the building of the bridge, but he also killed Gato and his henchmen. But that's not all he did. He brought hope back into this place. Chizuna said with a smile. Hope? How did he bring hope? Sasuke asked with a doubtful glare. Before he came around, no one dared oppose Gato. But when he did arrive, he changed things. When my workers started quitting on me, he managed to pick up the slack and help build the bridge. He took it upon himself to take care of Gato and his whole corporation, despite there being little pay in it. Even after he managed to do all of that, he helped bring this land back to its knees. Chizuna finished as he looked at the ruins. How did one man help bring the land out of poverty and rise it to the happy-go-lucky and busy trading hub it is today? Kakashi asked. Chizuna smiled as he looked at Kakashi. He gave us what we really needed. So neither the people of this land nor Nami Shipping Inc. will yield to the demands of your Hokage. We already yielded once, we will not do it again. Chizuna stated firmly and began to walk away. Wait, is there any way we could work out an exclusive trading contract between the Land of Waves and Konoha? Kakashi asked. No, we cannot. The Land of Waves is a free trading hub, open to all of the countries. And we will not show favoritism to anyone. He finished as he turned to walk away. Wait, Chizuna-san. He turned to see the small red-haired kid looking at him with desperate eyes. This hero of yours, Naruto. What did he look like? What was his last name? He asked. You think I will sell him out just so Konoha can try their recruit or kill routine on him? Chizuna asked. Please, old man, this is important. Hiruzen pleaded. Well, his name is Naruto Romanov. He began, making Kakashi and Hiruzen's obvious tension lessen. He was about 16 years old, blonde hair, and the deepest blue eyes you could imagine. Chizuna finished, and then saw the looks of excitement flash over Kakashi and Hiruzen's faces. And that's all I will tell. Chizuna stated as he walked away. Oh, and do enjoy our busy little town. He called back as he left the clearing. I have to get word of this back to Sensei. Kakashi thought as he summoned a messenger bird, wrote a quick message to the Hokage, and sent it on its way. Could it be Big Bro that did this? Hiruzen thought in awe as he took a real good look at the destroyed building. If Big Bro is this strong, I need to hurry and get even stronger so I can catch up to him and find him. Hiruzen thought with a look of determination as he raised his hand. And that is the promise of a lifetime. Border between Land of Hot Water and Land of Frost. Naruto groaned as he looked ahead towards the border of the Land of Frost. I have the worst freaking luck, Naruto mentally complained. He was wearing his snow camouflage jacket and pants, with a white face mask and a white beret over his head. He had managed to get through the Land of Hot Water relatively easily, but now he only had one more land before he got into the Land of Lightning and into Kumo. Overall, nothing major had really happened since he left the Land of Waves. Since he already knew which path to avoid, he managed to circle around Konohagakure no Sato completely. Naruto was shaken from his thoughts as a rustling noise was heard to his left. He turned to see nothing but a white blur and the pitter-patter of feet crunching snow. Dinner time, he thought with a grin as he unsealed his bow along with a non-explosive arrow. He jumped into a tree and watched carefully for any sign of movement. Okay, white and small, so I'm guessing rabbit. Eyes are a dead giveaway, but this one is smarter. Naruto mused as he jumped from tree branch to tree branch searching for his dinner. His attention was caught by two large red eyes seemingly floating in the snow. Gotcha, he whispered as he took aim and fired. His aim was true and it struck the rabbit in the head, killing it instantly. Before Naruto could retrieve it, a kunai whizzed past his head. He turned to see four shinobi headed towards him, all wearing winter wear. One was a sandy blonde with dark eyes, another was a blonde with blue eyes and a generous bust. Behind them were a dark-skinned boy with short spiky white hair and a dark-skinned girl with long red hair and amber eyes. Leading them up was a shinobi wearing the standard uniform of a Junin. He had black hair and eyes, but they were twisted into a fearful expression. They all had the standard forehead protector from Kumo. Move it, damn it, the man in Junin garb yelled as he pushed Naruto off to the side. Before he could retaliate, the blonde with dark eyes in purple turned to him. Sorry, she yelled as she kept running at high speeds. What the hell just happened? Naruto asked himself as he picked himself up. He then saw three three-man teams chasing after them. Clothing looks like it's meant for warmer weather, so they're obviously not from here. Dark brown color may be associated with their village, and their forehead protectors show two large rocks. They're obviously from Iowa, if I'm right, but why are they chasing Kumo shinobi? Naruto wondered as he looked towards where they ran off. No time to waste, he muttered as he took off after them. Border of Land of Lightning. Naruto silently landed on a tree branch and watched as the team from Kumo kept fleeing from the team from Iowa. They had been running non-stop since the Land of Frost and everyone seemed to be exhausted except for the sandy blonde wearing purple. Interesting. Naruto thought as he used the scope on his bow to get a closer look. He watched as the Kumo Junin pushed Yugito in front of his team and began fleeing. Take care of them, demon. The man demanded, and then ordered the rest of his team to scatter. Yugito had a hurt expression on her face, but she then steeled herself as she withdrew a kunai. The Junin had already scattered, but she noticed that Samui, Omoi, and Karui still remained. What the hell are you guys doing? She demanded as she waited for the approaching Iwa shinobi. We're a team, Yugito, Karui said as she withdrew her sword. We either live or die together, no one gets left behind. Omoi continued. Leaving a comrade behind is not cool. Samui finished as she poised her sword to strike. Thanks you guys, but get out of here. That's an order, she yelled as the 9 Iwa shinobi charged at them. With Naruto. Naruto smirked as he pulled out an explosive arrow and aimed it at the head of the lead Iwa ninja. With a resounding thwack, the arrow flew and buried itself into the nin's head. What the hell? One of the IWA nins exclaimed as he looked at his comrade. Boom. Naruto muttered. With Yugito and the team. Yugito watched as an arrow flew out of nowhere and buried itself into the incoming Iwa nin's head. She also heard the nin's statement, but that's not what worried her. What worried her was the explosion that rocked the clearing. Earth release. Earth-style wall. Karui yelled as she slammed her hand on the floor in front of them, making a large, chakra-reinforced wall of rock. Yugito and the rest of the team took cover behind the wall. With Naruto. Naruto took off his winter camouflage jacket and sealed it, then made a shadow clone. Go, he said to the shadow clone as he stuck to the treetops, carefully and silently making his way to the Kumo team. With the clone, Naruto jumped out of the treetop with bow in hand and stared defiantly at the Iwa ninjas. Hey, idiots, he yelled, betting their attention. Naruto then ducked under a large boulder as a flurry of kunai came at him. Shit, I need a distraction, the clone thought as he dug into his ninja pouch. He pulled out a piece of string tied into a circle and a mischievous smile crawled onto his face. He slipped it into his hands and rose from behind the boulder. You guys should feel honored, you're about to see something that hasn't been seen since the time of the Sage of Six Paths. He exclaimed. The IWA ninja were ready to attack as he got closer, but were ordered to stand down. Akuno, why are we standing down? A nin asked his leader. Don't be an idiot. If he has a bloodline, we can capture him and bring him back to IWA. If not, there's 3 people on this team that can erect a barrier in no time at all. The man reasoned and got a somewhat forced nod of recognition from his men. They all watched as Naruto continued making odd hand seals. With Yugito and her team. Yugito and her team watched on as this idiot approached the Iwa nin while making hand seals. Why aren't they attacking? Karui asked. Maybe he has some ultra-secret powerful bloodline and they want to capture him so Iwa can take over the world. Omoi exclaimed in a panicked voice. Nay, what are you guys watching? An unknown voice asked behind them. They all turned to see the exact same blonde before them. But, aren't you supposed to be over there? Karui demanded, only to get a nod from the blonde. But I am. Naruto replied happily. But, before Samui could argue, Naruto rose his finger to his lips. Relax, and enjoy the show. Naruto finished as he watched his clone. With the clone and the Iwa team. The Iwa team watched fearfully as the blonde boy finished his hand seals. Before he could say the name of the technique, 2 Iwa ninjas were at his side restraining him. This made the rest of them feel a bit better as they approached him. Hey, brat, the leader asked harshly. What was that technique you were trying to finish? The clone looked at him with an eye smile as it began charging chakra to its core. Cat's cradle, he replied as he parted his hands to show the string making a cradle from the ties in his fingers. The leader grew red from anger as he looked at the clone. Kill him, he demanded from the guards restraining him. Unfortunately, only one word was heard as they tried to kill him. Boom. A large explosion rocked the heart of the Iwa team, leaving only 2 of them able to stand and the rest of them in pain. With Yugito and her team. Yugito and Samui watched in awe as the clone made a complete fool of the Iwa Junins and disabled most of them with one move. They watched as the blonde moved in and killed the rest of them with well-placed arrows. Cool, Samui muttered under her breath with a small blush on her face, then shook it off as Yugito and the rest of her team approached the blonde. Naruto was sealing his bow into his arm as a voice yelled out to him. Hey, he turned to see the blonde in purple talking to him. Yes, Naruto asked as he turned to see the Kumo team approaching him. Not that we don't appreciate your help, Omoi began, but who the hell are you? Karui finished. Isn't it common courtesy to introduce yourself first? Naruto asked. My name is Yugito. Yugito ni. This is Omoi, the blonde pointed to the dark-skinned boy with spiky white hair. Karui, she pointed to the red head with amber eyes, and Samui. She finished as the blonde with blue eyes and a generous bust waved at him. My name is Naruto. Naruto Romanov, Naruto said as he shook everyone's hands. Nice to meet you, man. Omoi said. Hey, Karui said. Cool to meet you, Naruto-san. Samui said with a small blush on her face as she managed to catch herself. Good to meet you all, he said with a smile. Are you guys shinobi? He asked as he pointed to their forehead protectors. Yes, but I'm sure we don't have to tell you twice. Omoi said as he pointed to his beret, then noticed it didn't have a symbol. Wait, you aren't a shinobi? Karui asked. Not officially nor for any village. Naruto replied. Actually, I was just heading to Kumo. Why are you going to Kumo? Omoi asked. Some friends left me property there and I want to claim it. Naruto replied. Well, you're going to have to speak to the Raikage first, but I'm sure he'll let you move into Kumo. Yugito said. Yay, so long as you join the shinobi forces. We could use someone with your specific skill set. Omoi finished. That's fine, I was thinking of becoming a shinobi anyway. Naruto said as he unsealed a scroll. Well, we better get going. Karui said excitedly at the prospect of being back home. Before we go, would you mind if I changed? I'm kinda dressed for freezing weather, not warm. Yugito nodded as Naruto left to the tree line to change. As soon as Naruto was out of earshot, Yugito began. What do you guys think? Is he a threat or should we trust him until we get to Kumo? She asked. Well, he's strong so he's a possible threat. Omoi said. But he helped us, at least let's take that as a sign of good faith. Karui interrupted. What do you think, Samui? Yugito asked as she turned to her fellow blonde. He's cool, and he did help us without us asking. I say we wait to get to know him better before we pass judgment. Besides, if he's a threat, we kill him. If he isn't, Kumo gets a powerful shinobi. Either way, there is no loss. Samui finished. Yugito and the others nodded at her logic and waited for Naruto to come back. With Naruto, Naruto smiled as he listened to their conversation through the bug he dropped on the ground. They're cautious, but not extremely so. And they are willing to give me a chance. He thought as he finished putting on his standard uniform. He then walked out towards the team. Hey, you guys ready? He asked, not noticing the small blush from Samui and Yugito. Yay, let's go. Yugito replied as she tried to force down her blush. As they began walking, Naruto turned and winked at Samui. Thanks for giving me a chance, he stated, making it seem like he was talking to everyone. Only Yugito noticed the wink Samui got and huffed at it. Wait, what am I thinking? She asked herself as she tried to focus on the walk to Kumo. One thing was for sure, things were going to be interesting in Kumo. Kumogakure no Sato. Naruto groaned as he stood at the gates of the hidden village. Yugito and her team had checked in and requested an audience with the Raikage. Soon, a team of Anbu from Kumo came down and tied his hands together behind his back. What the hell? Naruto demanded as he tried to free himself. Sorry sir, but this is standard procedure for any outsiders that want to see the Raikage. Naruto groaned, but stopped struggling and followed Yugito and her team. Raikage Tower. You what? A loud voice boomed from the tower. I'm sorry sir, but various teams from Iowa were closing in on us. I decided to leave the demon. He started, only to be punched squarely in the face by the Raikage. Don't you dare call her that. The Raikage demanded. Where is she and the rest of your team? I demanded at the pathetic excuse of a shinobi before him. Well, I'm not sure. The man finished. After I ordered Yugito to stay back and fight off the teams, I ordered them to scatter. I haven't seen them since. The man finished with a hint of fear in his voice. I was about to kill the pathetic idiot standing before him, but was stopped by a knocking sound on his door. Not now, Mabui, he yelled as a dark-skinned young woman with green eyes and silver hair tied into a ponytail walked into his office. Team Yugito to see you with an outsider that requests an audience. Relief flashed over A's face as he heard that Yugito and her team were safe and in his office. Send them in, he said and then turned to the Junin. As of now, you are officially stripped of your rank and demoted to Genin. Now leave, he yelled at the cowering man. The Genin nodded and ran out of the Raikage's office as fast as he could. A then took a seat and stared intently at the door as Yugito, Samui, Karui, Omoi, and a strange blonde-haired teen filed into his office. Interesting, he thought as Yugito began her report. Naruto. Naruto stepped into the office quietly behind Samui after the silver-haired secretary, Mabui, had told them to enter. He analyzed the Raikage with a critical eye as Yugito began her report on what happened. Silver hair must be a common trait in Kumo. Overdeveloped physique shows an obvious preference to hand-to-hand combat. He mused as he looked at the dark-skinned white-haired man with a mustache, beard, and an overly developed physique. Naruto was snapped from his thoughts as I addressed him. Hey, you, what's your name? I asked. Isn't it common courtesy to give your own name before asking someone else's? Naruto asked in a bored tone, making a tick mark develop on A's head. My name is A, the Raikage of Kumo. Now who are you, brat? He asked. My name is Naruto Romanov. Naruto stated. So you're the one who managed to take down the teams of Iwa Junins and save Yugito and her team? I asked dubiously. Yes, I did. And I hear you want to be a Kumo civilian. I asked. Yes, if it will let me claim property here. Naruto said. Yes, I heard about that. What property are you trying to claim? I asked. It's a private property on the outskirts of Kumo. Some friends left it to me when they died. Naruto replied. Well, judging from what I have heard, there would be no problem for you to join Kumo. However, there are a few stipulations. I started. And what do they include? Naruto asked as he took a seat. Well, for one, you have to join the shinobi program. From then, you will have to be on a probationary status for 2 months. Afterwards, you will be instated as a Chunin level shinobi and work your way from there. Finished. Naruto nodded at the conditions that are set. Fine, I'll join the shinobi program. Under one condition. I'm put on Yugito-chan's team. Naruto stated. Yugito-chan. I mentally asked and smirked. Fine, welcome to the ranks of Kumo. Said as he tossed a forehead protector to Naruto. Anbu will escort you to your property and make sure you behave. During your probationary period of 2 months, you will only be allowed to take D-rank missions. Anything needed as far as food and clothing will be provided to you until your first month of probation is complete. Finished. Naruto nodded and took the forehead protector. Dismissed. Yugito will. Began only to be cut off by Samui. If it's cool with you, I'd like to show him around. She said in a quiet tone. We'll both show him around. Yugito said with a forced smile on her face. Hell, how about Team Yugito shows him around? Karui and Omoi stated in unison as they grabbed the blonde and dragged him out of the door and into the village. Things are going to get interesting with that kid here. Amused as he stared outside the window. He turned back to his desk only to be greeted by the sight of huge stack of paperwork. Damn it, it just keeps multiplying. Growled. Time skip. After the tour of Kumo, Naruto smiled as Karui and Omoi said their goodbyes to him. Overall, today had been a blast. After showing him to the ninja stores, restaurants, clinics, and supermarkets, Team Yugito had decided to treat him to lunch as a way of thanking him for saving their asses. After lunch, everyone noticed that it had gotten pretty dark. Omoi and Karui excused themselves stating that their parents would kill them if they got home late. Which left him, Samui, and Yugito alone. So Naruto-san, where do you plan on living? Samui asked. I'm going to head to this location and see if this property is still liveable. We'll come with you, Yugito happily said as she sent a small death glare to Samui. Thanks, but I'm sure that I'll be able to find it by myself. But, I'll see you guys around. Naruto said as he took off. Now, which way is the bunker? Naruto asked as he looked at the locations on the map. Outskirts of Kumo, base of MT. Mayanashi. Naruto looked at the mountain in front of him. Is this where the bunker is supposed to be? Naruto asked as he took out the key to the bunker and the instructions to getting there. The bunker is located at these coordinates. The entrance is hidden under a large metal grate. After you raise it, there will be a small set of stairs that will lead to a flight of stairs. This flight leads to a large, metal door with a control panel. The code is 28,364,377. Naruto looked at the ground and sighed. This is going to take a while. Naruto muttered as he made a few shadow clones and sent them to search for the metal grate. Half an hour later, Naruto walked to the base of the mountain after a clone that found the entrance to the bunker dispelled. He lifted the large, metal grate covering the stairwell and slowly made his way towards the door. He took out a small flashlight from a pocket in his vest and shined it around the door trying to find the control panel. It should be right around here. Naruto thought as he walked towards the panel and typed in the password. Password accepted. An automated voice exclaimed. Naruto watched as the large door was opened to reveal a smaller version of the bunker from Konoha. He made 5 shadow clones and instructed them to get the layout of the place as he explored the hallway. 15 minutes later, the clones dispelled and he got the layout of the place. He quickly headed to the nearest bedroom and he crashed. I'll sort this place out tomorrow, he muttered under his breath as sleep overtook him. The next day, Naruto groaned as the alarm clock went off. Damn it, it's still early. Naruto thought as he got up and headed to the main computer. After he got there, he took the portable hard drive and connected it to the computer. 15 minutes later, the information was completely loaded and booted into the computer. Naruto watched as the screen lit up and Natalia's face popped into the screen. Naruto, it took you long enough, she said with a small smirk on her face. Well, overthrowing a dictator will do that to you, he replied happily. Unfortunately, I am afraid that there are no robots here that I can download anyone into. Natalia said sadly. But you said, Naruto began. I know what I said, Naruto, but situations change. We'll still be on screen so that if you need us, we'll be here. But other than that, you'll be on your own. Natalia said sadly. She noticed his sad expression and loaded everyone's personalities into the screen. Naruto watched as Cap, Tony, Jarvis, and Hawkeye popped into screen. Wow, you really need a girlfriend. Tony said to Naruto. Dude, relax. We'll be here. The place is stocked with non-perishable food. The generator on this place can go on for almost infinity, and this place is virtually strong enough to survive a nuclear war. Tony continued. You'll be fine. We'll be in the mainframe when you need us. Cap continued. Now, how about filling us in on what you've been doing? Natalia asked with a smile. If Naruto had missed anything, it was this. Having people there for him and to listen to him when he was alone. Well, everything began with. Time skip 59 days later. Naruto sighed as he headed towards the mission's office. This last month and few days had been a living hell for him. Well, at least today is the last day. Naruto thought as he got his mission. Collect groceries for an old lady. Are you serious? Naruto asked the man in charge of assigning missions. Yep. Now get to work. Naruto groaned as he headed to the supermarket. In these last few days, Naruto hadn't changed much. The only thing that had changed was the Kumo symbol stitched to his black beret. Supermarket. Naruto groaned as he pushed the cart into the dairy aisle. Stupid old lady. Naruto thought as he looked around the supermarket. He saw Yugito and her team helping stock the store and smiled as he waved at them. Hey Naruto. Omoi and Karui exclaimed. Hello, Naruto-kun. Samui and Yugito said, then Death glared at each other. Hey you guys, having trouble with the mission? He asked playfully. This is not cool. The Raikage hasn't let us take any high-profile missions for 2 months. Samui whined. Yay, it sucks. Yugito agreed. Well guys, I have to get back to my mission. I'll catch you guys later. Naruto said as everyone left to get back to their duties. Naruto watched as Yugito headed to a utility dolly packed with cartons of eggs and held in place with black straps. Naruto went back to his shopping, until he heard the sound of a loud crash. He turned to see Yugito standing next to a cart that had been tipped over. All of the eggs on the cart had been either cracked or smashed. Damn it, demon. You can't do anything. A woman dressed professionally yelled at Yugito. You're going to have to pay for those. She yelled, only for Yugito to yell back at her that it wasn't her fault. Naruto looked at the scene and began laughing, turning the attention to him. And what are you laughing at? The manager demanded at him. You idiot, he replied, shocking her at the lack of respect. How dare you? She began, only to be cut off by Naruto. Simple really. You claim this is Yugito's cart and that all of those eggs were the ones Yugito was supposed to put on the shelf, right? Naruto asked. Of course it is, you ignorant brat. The woman yelled. Please shut up. The cart Yugito was hauling was an orange one, not black as the one on the floor. Yugito's cart had black straps to hold the eggs in place while this one has no straps. Also, the eggs are falling towards Yugito, not away from her. If he had been carrying them, they would have fallen away from her, not towards her. Naruto finished. So unless you want me to file a report to the Raikage that states you were trying to frame a shinobi of the village, I suggest you clean this up and apologize. Naruto said with venom in his tone. The manager forced an apology and left to get something to clean the mess with. Thank you Naruto-kun, Yugito said with a blush on her face. No problem, Yugito-chan. It's what friends are for. He replied happily. But, how did you know those things? She asked. There are hundreds of things people see, but do not observe. You just have to pay attention to the little things. He said as he went back to his business. Nah, Naruto-kun was paying that much attention. To me. Yugito mentally stuttered. Since she was the Jinchuriki of the Nibi, no one ever paid attention to her. The fact that Naruto did sent her through a bit of a loop. She tried to clear the blush from her face as she got back to work. He got all of that from just a look. Definitely the new sexy. Samui thought as she watched the blonde enigma walk away. Kumogakure no Sato. Naruto groaned as he stood at the gates of the hidden village. Yugito and her team had checked in and requested an audience with the Raikage. Soon, a team of Anbu from Kumo came down and tied his hands together behind his back. What the hell? Naruto demanded as he tried to free himself. Sorry sir, but this is standard procedure for any outsiders that want to see the Raikage. Naruto groaned, but stopped struggling and followed Yugito and her team. Raikage Tower. You what? A loud voice boomed from the tower. I'm sorry sir, but various teams from Iowa were closing in on us. I decided to leave the demon. He started, only to be punched squarely in the face by the Raikage. Don't you dare call her that. The Raikage demanded. Where is she and the rest of your team? I demanded at the pathetic excuse of a shinobi before him. Well, I'm not sure. The man finished. After I ordered Yugito to stay back and fight off the teams, I ordered them to scatter. I haven't seen them since. The man finished with a hint of fear in his voice. I was about to kill the pathetic idiot standing before him, but was stopped by a knocking sound on his door. Not now, Mabui, he yelled as a dark-skinned young woman with green eyes and silver hair tied into a ponytail walked into his office. Team Yugito to see you with an outsider that requests an audience. Relief flashed over A's face as he heard that Yugito and her team were safe and in his office. Send them in, he said and then turned to the Junin. As of now, you are officially stripped of your rank and demoted to Genin. Now leave, he yelled at the cowering man. The Genin nodded and ran out of the Raikage's office as fast as he could. A then took a seat and stared intently at the door as Yugito, Samui, Karui, Omoi, and a strange blonde-haired teen filed into his office. Interesting, he thought as Yugito began her report. Naruto. Naruto stepped into the office quietly behind Samui after the silver-haired secretary, Mabui, had told them to enter. He analyzed the Raikage with a critical eye as Yugito began her report on what happened. Silver hair must be a common trait in Kumo. Overdeveloped physique shows an obvious preference to hand-to-hand combat. He mused as he looked at the dark-skinned white-haired man with a mustache, beard, and an overly developed physique. Naruto was snapped from his thoughts as I addressed him. Hey, you, what's your name? I asked. Isn't it common courtesy to give your own name before asking someone else's? Naruto asked in a bored tone, making a tick mark develop on A's head. My name is A, the Raikage of Kumo. Now who are you, brat? He asked. My name is Naruto Romanov. Naruto stated. So you're the one who managed to take down the teams of Iwa Junins and save Yugito and her team? I asked dubiously. Yes, I did. And I hear you want to be a Kumo civilian. I asked. Yes, if it will let me claim property here. Naruto said. Yes, I heard about that. What property are you trying to claim? I asked. It's a private property on the outskirts of Kumo. Some friends left it to me when they died. Naruto replied. Well, judging from what I have heard, there would be no problem for you to join Kumo. However, there are a few stipulations. I started. And what do they include? Naruto asked as he took a seat. Well, for one you have to join the shinobi program. From then, you will have to be on a probationary status for 2 months. Afterwards, you will be instated as a Chunin level shinobi and work your way from there. Finished. Naruto nodded at the conditions that are set. Fine, I'll join the shinobi program. Under one condition. I'm put on Yugito-chan's team. Naruto stated. Yugito-chan. I mentally asked and smirked. Fine, welcome to the ranks of Kumo. Said as he tossed a forehead protector to Naruto. Anbu will escort you to your property and make sure you behave. During your probationary period of 2 months, you will only be allowed to take D-rank missions. Anything needed as far as food and clothing will be provided to you until your first month of probation is complete. Finished. Naruto nodded and took the forehead protector. Dismissed. Yugito will. Began only to be cut off by Samui. If it's cool with you, I'd like to show him around. She said in a quiet tone. We'll both show him around. Yugito said with a forced smile on her face. Hell, how about Team Yugito shows him around? Karui and Omoi stated in unison as they grabbed the blonde and dragged him out of the door and into the village. Things are going to get interesting with that kid here. Amused as he stared outside the window. He turned back to his desk only to be greeted by the sight of huge stack of paperwork. Damn it, it just keeps multiplying. A growled. Time skip. After the tour of Kumo. Naruto smiled as Karui and Omoi said their goodbyes to him. Overall, today had been a blast. After showing him to the ninja stores, restaurants, clinics, and supermarkets, Team Yugito had decided to treat him to lunch as a way of thanking him for saving their asses. After lunch, everyone noticed that it had gotten pretty dark. Omoi and Karui excused themselves stating that their parents would kill them if they got home late. Which left him, Samui, and Yugito alone. So Naruto-san, where do you plan on living? Samui asked. I'm going to head to this location and see if this property is still liveable. We'll come with you, Yugito happily said as she sent a small death glare to Samui. Thanks, but I'm sure that I'll be able to find it by myself. But, I'll see you guys around. Naruto said as he took off. Now, which way is the bunker? Naruto asked as he looked at the locations on the map. Outskirts of Kumo. Base of Mt. Mayanashi. Naruto looked at the mountain in front of him. Is this where the bunker is supposed to be? Naruto asked as he took out the key to the bunker and the instructions to getting there. The bunker is located at these coordinates. The entrance is hidden under a large metal grate. After you raise it, there will be a small set of stairs that will lead to a flight of stairs. This flight leads to a large, metal door with a control panel. The code is 28,364,377. Naruto looked at the ground and sighed. This is going to take a while. Naruto muttered as he made a few shadow clones and sent them to search for the metal grate. Half an hour later, Naruto walked to the base of the mountain after a clone that found the entrance to the bunker dispelled. He lifted the large, metal grate covering the stairwell and slowly made his way towards the door. He took out a small flashlight from a pocket in his vest and shined it around the door trying to find the control panel. It should be right around here, Naruto thought as he walked towards the panel and typed in the password. Password accepted. An automated voice exclaimed. Naruto watched as the large door was opened to reveal a smaller version of the bunker from Konoha. He made 5 shadow clones and instructed them to get the layout of the place as he explored the hallway. 5 minutes later, the clones dispelled and he got the layout of the place. He quickly headed to the nearest bedroom and he crashed. I'll sort this place out tomorrow, he muttered under his breath as sleep overtook him. The next day, Naruto groaned as the alarm clock went off. Damn it, it's still early, Naruto thought as he got up and headed to the main computer. After he got there, he took the portable hard drive and connected it to the computer. 15 minutes later, the information was completely loaded and booted into the computer. Naruto watched as the screen lit up and Natalia's face popped into the screen. Naruto, it took you long enough, she said with a small smirk on her face. Well, overthrowing a dictator will do that to you, he replied happily. Unfortunately, I am afraid that there are no robots here that I can download anyone into, Natalia said sadly. But you said, Naruto began. I know what I said, Naruto, but situations change. We'll still be on screen so that if you need us, we'll be here. But other than that, you'll be on your own, Natalia said sadly. She noticed his sad expression and loaded everyone's personalities into the screen. Naruto watched as Cap, Tony, Jarvis, and Hawkeye popped into screen. Wow, you really need a girlfriend, Tony said to Naruto. Dude, relax. We'll be here. The place is stocked with non-perishable food. The generator on this place can go on for almost infinity, and this place is virtually strong enough to survive a nuclear war. Tony continued. You'll be fine. We'll be in the mainframe when you need us, Cap continued. Now, how about filling us in on what you've been doing? Natalia asked with a smile. If Naruto had missed anything, it was this. Having people there for him and to listen to him when he was alone. Well, everything began with. Time skip 59 days later. Naruto sighed as he headed towards the mission's office. This last month and few days had been a living hell for him. Well, at least today is the last day, Naruto thought as he got his mission. Collect groceries for an old lady. Are you serious? Naruto asked the man in charge of assigning missions. Yep, now get to work, Naruto groaned as he headed to the supermarket. In these last few days, Naruto hadn't changed much. The only thing that had changed was the Kumo symbol stitched to his black beret. Supermarket. Naruto groaned as he pushed the cart into the dairy aisle. Stupid old lady, Naruto thought as he looked around the supermarket. He saw Yugito and her team helping stock the store and smiled as he waved at them. Hey Naruto, Omoi and Karui exclaimed. Hello, Naruto-kun, Samui and Yugito said, then Death glared at each other. Hey you guys, having trouble with the mission? He asked playfully. This is not cool. The Raikage hasn't let us take any high-profile missions for 2 months. Samui whined. Yay, it sucks, Yugito agreed. Well guys, I have to get back to my mission. I'll catch you guys later, Naruto said as everyone left to get back to their duties. Naruto watched as Yugito headed to a utility dolly packed with cartons of eggs and held in place with black straps. Naruto went back to his shopping, until he heard the sound of a loud crash. He turned to see Yugito standing next to a cart that had been tipped over. All of the eggs on the cart had been either cracked or smashed. Damn it demon, you can't do anything, a woman dressed professionally yelled at Yugito. You're going to have to pay for those, she yelled, only for Yugito to yell back at her that it wasn't her fault. Naruto looked at the scene and began laughing, turning the attention to him. And what are you laughing at? The manager demanded at him. You idiot, he replied, shocking her at the lack of respect. How dare you, she began, only to be cut off by Naruto. Simple really. You claim this is Yugito's cart and that all of those eggs were the ones Yugito was supposed to put on the shelf, right? Naruto asked. Of course it is, you ignorant brat. The woman yelled. Please shut up. The cart Yugito was hauling was an orange one, not black as the one on the floor. Yugito's cart had black straps to hold the eggs in place while this one has no straps. Also, the eggs are falling towards Yugito, not away from her. If he had been carrying them, they would have fallen away from her, not towards her. Naruto finished. So unless you want me to file a report to the Raikage that states you were trying to frame a shinobi of the village, I suggest you clean this up and apologize. Naruto said with venom in his tone. The manager forced an apology and left to get something to clean the mess with. Thank you Naruto-kun, Yugito said with a blush on her face. No problem, Yugito-chan. It's what friends are for. He replied happily. But, how did you know those things? She asked. There are hundreds of things people see, but do not observe. You just have to pay attention to the little things. He said as he went back to his business. Nah, Naruto-kun was paying that much attention. To me. Yugito mentally stuttered. Since she was the Jinchuriki of the Nibi, no one ever paid attention to her. The fact that Naruto did sent her through a bit of a loop. She tried to clear the blush from her face as she got back to work. He got all of that from just a look. Definitely the new sexy. Samui thought as she watched the blonde enigma walk away.